but there is also the seriousness of sin. So this morning, I hope that you brought your Bibles, and I hope that you'll turn with me to Acts chapter 5, where we'll find a married couple, New Testament Christians. But that's always a bad statement, isn't it? When somebody says that statement and follows it with that word, something bad is about to happen. There is a married couple here, and they are going to suffer for sin. But they're good people, but they're going to suffer for sin. In Acts chapter 5 and verse 1 it says, "But a certain man named Ananias with his wife, or with Sapphira his wife, sold a possession." They had something. They had it. And they went and they sold it. Members of the church at this time were selling their things in order to help out everyone else. It was never a command for everyone to do that, but that's what people were doing. And in verse 2 it says they kept back a part of the price, his wife also being privy to it, and bought a certain part and laid it at the apostles' feet. So both of them knew what they were doing. Both of them were together in agreement. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to sell this land, we're going to keep part of it, and then we're going to lay it at the apostles' feet, and we're going to say, we gave you everything that we got. We gave you the whole thing. That's not going to work out well for them. That's not going to be a positive thing for them, because they're not only lying to Peter, they're not only lying to the congregation, they're lying to God. And they're questioning. They're going to cause a questioning of, does the Holy Spirit really know what people are doing? Because if we can lie to Peter, and Peter is an apostle, then obviously we can get away with it to anybody, especially God. Now what kind of an example would that set? How would the people respond if that was to happen? They're lying about their contribution. They're lying about what they're giving. They had agreed to keep back the money, but they said, we're giving it all. They had a responsibility to do with their money what they said they would do with it. And Peter said, Ananias, why has Satan filled thine heart to lie to the Holy Ghost and keep back a part of the price of the land? Peter blamed Satan for filling their hearts. But whose responsibility was it, ultimately? Just because he let Satan in doesn't mean it's Satan's fault. Have you ever seen those cookie jars where it said, the devil made me do it? Amen. The devil doesn't make us do anything. Amen. He gives us the opportunity. He may encourage us, nudge us along, but in the end, we're all ultimately responsible for our own actions. And no one can be responsible for me but me. So Peter said to him, why has Satan filled thine heart to lie to who? The Holy Ghost. But wait a minute, he's lying to Peter, not just Peter. Wait a minute, he's lying to the congregation, not just the congregation. He's lying to the Holy Ghost, and to keep back a part of the price of the land. We are influenced by evil things to do wrong, and the influence is everywhere. But still, we have to be faithful. Satan does not come into our heart miraculously, just like Christ doesn't come into our heart miraculously and make us do good as though some claim. You ever heard that? Someone says, Christ came into my heart and now I'll never sin again. The only time we read of someone jumping into someone's heart is Satan. So be careful who you're inviting in. So here we have him claiming Satan is in his heart, making this statement, you allowed him there, and Ananias is held responsible for his actions. Satan was in him because he wanted him there. He desired him to be there because there was something he wanted. You know what that was? Money. Money and power and fame. Look at me. You know, I went and sold everything I had too. And I gave it all to the church. But did he really? No. It was a lie. He's held responsible for his actions. The apostles had the gift of discerning spirits. Peter had this ability. He could look at you and tell whether or not you were lying. That'd be a nice gift to have, wouldn't it? To know whether someone is telling the truth or lying to your face. That may be a good gift, but it may be a bad gift. But he had the ability to discern spirits. He was able to determine whether or not this person was lying or not. It's important to remember we may feel that we can get a good read on people. But we don't know for sure what's in someone's heart. I can look at you and say, well, I can make a determination by the things that I've seen you do. I can make a determination by the way I've seen you act. But I can't know for sure what's in your heart. Amen. The only one who can know that is God. And the apostles that he inspired to know these things. He then asked them a question. He says, while it remained, was it not yours? He said, when you had this, wasn't it yours? You could have done whatever you wanted to with it. You could have kept it. You could have sold it. And after it was sold, was it not in thine own power? He said, after you sold it, couldn't you just kept all the money and not told us? Sure, you could have done that. It's not a command. You weren't forced to give this money. So, why? Why hast thou conceived this thing in thine heart, and thou hast not lied unto men, but unto God? It belongs to you. You own this. So why are you selling it? 1. 2, you sold it. It's your money. You can do anything you want to. You want to go buy that brand new shiny chariot? Go ahead. But you've done something in your heart. You've predetermined. You know, even in America, we make a distinction between predetermined and something that happens off the cuff. You ever notice that? There's a difference in killing somebody because you snapped and killing somebody because you went and wrote it down and made out a plan. There's a big difference in those two things. One's premeditated. You're going to jail for life. Or maybe the death penalty, depending on which one you get. You do it off the cuff, you're looking at, what, 25 years maybe? There is a big difference in those two things. And God looks at those two things differently. For someone who does something as a mistake, someone who messes up, and someone who says, I don't care, this is what we're going to do. We're going to devise evil. We're going to create evil. We're going to plan this thing out. You know, they went through a lot of effort to lie. They had to sell it. Then they had to determine together how much they were going to keep and how much they were going to give. Then they had to determine together what the lie was going to be to Peter. They went through a lot of planning to get this done. He says, was it not in your own power? Didn't you have the right to keep it? You know, some people try to say that's a command for Christians. You have to sell everything you have and give it to other people. Some people want that to be a command. You ever heard of that? That actually still exists today. In church, you have to sell your things and everybody share mutually. But that's not what he said, is it? He said, when it was yours, it's yours. We can't bind our opinions on people. Philippians 2 and verse 12, Romans 14. Some feel that we should enforce that. We can't enforce something that was never a command. What they wanted to do was contribute part of their money, but act like they gave it all. They wanted to be seen. You know, that was one of the problems of the chief rulers. They believed in Jesus, and among the chief rulers, many believed in Jesus, but because they feared being thrown out of the temple, they wouldn't confess Him. And it says they did it because they loved the praise of man more than the praise of God. Amen. They want to be seen to look good, seen to do good, seen to look like, oh, look at all of the wonderful charitable things we just did. But really, they're lying. What they wanted to do was come away looking as fantastic when they were doing nothing but lying. Why do we do the things that we do? What's our motivation? What's our reasoning? Do we do what we do to make people step away and not worry about us? Do we do what we do because we want to be praised for the work of the Lord? Do we do what we do because we simply want to do the right thing? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. That's our motive. What is important to us? What is it that drives us to do the things that we do? Because something has to drive us or else we wouldn't be here. True? If there was nothing to motivate me, why would I be here? But there is a motivating factor. And everyone has to have a motivation for what they do. Now that motivation can be right, and that motivation can be wrong. But everyone has a motivation to do the things that we do. Verse 5. And Ananias, hearing these words, fell down and gave up the ghost, and great fear came upon all that heard these things. And the young men arose and wound him up and carried him out and buried him. So he's here alone. He tells him the lie. He calls him out on the lie. And then he drops dead. The young men go, wrap him up, pick him up, carry him out, and no one tells Sapphira. No one tells her. You thought about that? No one warned her. It had been 3 hours later before she gets there. Could you imagine if that happened today? Facebook and Twitter would explode. It would be everywhere. It would be on YouTube. Everyone would know about it. People would be texting Sapphira, don't lie. Don't lie to him. Something bad's going to happen. But these people didn't move. They simply waited. That's an honest heart, isn't it? What are they going to do? It was a different time, and people had different respects for God than many do today, don't they? Some people were more concerned, or would be more concerned about Sapphira than about God. Now that's scary, isn't it? And it was about the space of 3 hours, verse 7, when his wife, not knowing what was done, came in. So now she enters and she looks around. I wonder if she wondered where Ananias was. Where is he? And Peter answered unto her, Tell me whether you sold the land for so much. And she said, Yeah, for so much. Can you imagine the disappointment on everyone's face? They knew at that point. They got together and did it. They got together and made this decision. Peter gives Sapphira the opportunity to correct her actions. That's something God always does, doesn't he? He gives us the opportunity to make it right. You have an opportunity to do the right thing. Are you going to take it? Verse 9. Then Peter said unto her, How is it that you have agreed together to tempt the Spirit of the Lord? Behold, the feet of them which have buried thy husband are at the door, and shall carry thee out. What a scary statement. The people that carried your husband are coming to get you now. Then she fell down straightway at his feet and yielded up the ghost. And the young men came in and found her dead, and carrying her forth, buried her by her husband. And great fear came upon all the church, upon as many as hearing these things. People often think that if they're not punished immediately, they've gotten away with something. You ever notice that? A criminal commits a crime. No one arrests him immediately. He thinks, I've got away with it. And usually, he'll try for a second time because he got away. If I got away once, I'll get away twice. It's a pattern. Fear came upon the church. The word fear means respect and awe. In the infancy of the church, this sets a wonderful example. God is supreme authority. The apostles have authority. Listen to them or God will remove you from the church. That was a powerful thought to them. That was something that they needed to know. Giving to the Lord is not about giving to a budget, it's about giving to the work of the Lord. They, Ananias and Sapphira, had a concept of God that was wrong. They had a concept they could trick him. They had a concept they could do whatever they wanted, but it was wrong. Some think that the world should not practice church discipline. But can you imagine what would have happened back then? Church discipline is required, isn't it? Mandatory. Some people might have been mad at Peter. Peter, how could you dare let this happen to poor Ananias and Sapphira? They're good people. But it had to be done. It had to be done. If they were truly concerned with the people in the room, they would have done it. But if they weren't concerned about them, would they have ever done it? Would they have been struck down if there was no concern for the people in the audience? No. And if Ananias and Sapphira can get away with it, I can get away with it too. Would you want to live in a nation that doesn't enforce its laws? Think about that. There's a penalty for murder. There's a penalty for theft. There's a penalty for all these different crimes. But we're going to tell you now, we're not going to enforce any of them. Do you want to live there? I don't want to live there. That's a scary place. You don't know what's going to happen, or when it's going to happen, or why it happens. They were truly concerned. Many Christians would be mad at Peter for indicting this, saying that it was too harsh, and you might scare other people away from this church. But some interesting things happened. Verse 12, and by the hands of the apostles were many signs and wonders wrought among the people, and they were all with one accord in Solomon's porch, and of the rest there's no man joined himself to them, but the people magnified them. The people respected them. They learned what they did. The people learned their lesson. And notice what it says in verse 14. And believers were the more added to the Lord, multitudes, both men and women. Their church grew after this. It didn't shrink. They didn't run away in fear. But it grew. People respected them for what they did. It would be hypocrisy not to. Would you want to go somewhere filled with hypocrisy? Could you imagine if God said, I will strike down anybody that steps foot in here? And then someone stepped foot in here and he said, okay, maybe not this time, I'll get the next one. Would you have respect for him? No. But here, he shows that when you do the right things the right way, it brings respect. And he will bless you. God blesses faithfulness. He always has, hasn't he? Abraham, I want you to sacrifice your son. What? I want you to sacrifice your son. So he gets there, he's about to sacrifice him. Stop. Abraham, you're faithful. You're going to be blessed. He blesses faithfulness. He always has. Here is a principle for us. If we do what God says to do, God will bless us. Every time. No matter what it is, if you do the right thing, the right way, God will bless us. There is more respect for a country when laws are carried out than for a country where no law is ever carried out. Imagine a nation, as we just said, that never required people to keep its laws. If the church is kept pure and the church is kept clean, then there is greater opportunity for growth. There's less fighting, there's less problems. Verse 15. Insomuch that they brought forth the sick into the streets, and they laid them on beds and couches, lest the shadow of Peter passing by might overshadow some of them. There came also a multitude out of the cities round about into Jerusalem, bringing sick folks, and them that were vexed with an unclean spirit, and they were healed every one. The apostles showed their miraculous power when they did what they did. They healed people. That's a command for us. Now, we won't miraculously heal people because we can't. But we do have the opportunity to heal broken people. But the angel of verse 17. Then the high priest rose up, and all they that were with him, which is of the sect of the Sadducees, and were filled with indignation, and they laid their hands on the apostles and put them in common prison. You're not going to heal people while we're standing here. Can you imagine someone saying that? You can't take care of somebody while we're watching. So they threw them into common prison. But the angel of the Lord by night opened the prison door and brought them forth and said, Go stand and speak in the temple to the people all the words of life. Wow. Opens the door, lets them out, and says, something I want you to do. Go stand in the temple. Who's going to be at the temple tomorrow? The Sadducees, the Pharisees, everybody's going to be there. Go stand in the temple. Didn't they just put us in prison? Go stand in the temple. And when they heard that, they entered into the temple early in the morning and taught. But the high priest came, and they that were with him, and called the council together, and all the senate of the children of Israel, and sent to prison to have them brought. But when the officers came and found them not in the prison, they returned and told, saying, The prison is truly found, we shut with all safety, and the keeper standing without before the doors. But when they opened it, we found no man inside, no man within. There's nobody there. We put them in there. We locked the door. We made sure it was closed. We put people outside. But somehow they're not there. I think that might have reminded them of another situation that happened. We put Jesus in a tomb, we put a rock in front of it, and we put guards outside. Surely there's no way they'll steal it. And then he walks out. We put him in prison, we locked the doors, we put people outside. Surely there's no way they'll go back to teaching in the temple. Where are they? Uh-oh. Now when the high priest and the captain of the temple had heard this, and the captain of the temple and the chief priest had heard these things, they doubted of them whereunto this would grow. Then came one of them and told them, saying, Behold, the men whom ye put in prison are standing in the temple and teaching the people. They went back out there and started teaching again. Can you believe this? Then went the captain of the officers and brought them without violence, for they feared the people, lest they should have been stoned. And when they brought them, they set them before the council, and the high priest asked them a question, saying, Did we not strictly, did we not expressly command you that you should not teach in his name? And behold, you have filled Jerusalem with your doctrine, and intend to bring this man's blood upon us. They said, well, didn't we tell you to stop teaching his name? Didn't we tell you to stop teaching the gospel? Didn't we tell you to stop putting this out there because all of Jerusalem is believing what you're teaching? And here's what they said. Then Peter and the others ought to obey God rather than man. God supersedes every man's law. No matter whose law it is, he supersedes it. But he does give us a command to obey the laws of the land. There's no way around that. If the laws of the land say this, we have to do that. Even if we don't like it. I don't like always driving 35 in some places, but I have to. I like to go at least 55. But I have to. That's what it says. If I don't, there'll be blue lights and I'll get a ticket. We have to obey the laws of the land. That's a command from God. You can't move around that. You can't ignore that. It's there. But when the laws of man conflict with the laws of God, it's better to obey God rather than man. That's an amazing lesson we learn from chapter 5 of the book of Acts. We learn the importance of being honest to God, the importance of being faithful to each other. We learn the importance of being faithful to our government, but especially to God. That's emphasized twice. Always, always, always be faithful and honest to God. Because you can't lie to Him. You can lie to me. You can lie to everyone in your life. But you can't lie to someone who sees everything you do. You can't lie to someone who knows what's in your heart. You can't get around it. It's there, in the forefront of God. You know, David tried to hide what he did with Bathsheba. Couldn't do it. Because you know who knew? God. You can't hide anything. If there's someone here this morning that needs to become a New Testament Christian, there's no better time than right now. Do you believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God? Are you willing to repent and change? Are you willing to confess that He is the Son of God and be baptized into Christ for the remission of your sins? Or perhaps there's someone here this morning that's like Ananias and Sapphira. There's something in your life that needs to be changed. Perhaps it's a lie. Perhaps it's something that needs to be addressed. Then don't delay. Come now while we stand and while we sing.
When we walk with the Lord in the light of His Word, what a glory